Oh, hello, guys. Slava Ukraini, and please confirm that you can see me and hear me well. Because just a second before I wanted to start on time, it told me like no live chat at the moment, no live broadcasting, and I was really like worried at the second. For the second, do you see me and do you hear me well? Slava Ukraini. Slava Ukraini, and greetings to many of you. And I know that you like asking me questions, and when I answer them, but on this really special day, um, I will talk at least, I think, like 20 minutes or something, because there are so many things that I want to tell you. And I'm really grateful that this worst year of Ukrainian life, and I think like the majority of Ukrainians will tell you that this is the worst life experience that we are going through. At the same time, you cannot imagine how grateful I am for our community and for our friendship that we have. I do not always answer all of your emails on time because I receive like hundreds, but there are many moments when your words, your sentences, they hit directly in my heart, in my soul, and they tell me exactly what I need and what many of my countrymen need. And actually, I have decided to put on the very same hoodie that I was wearing at the start of the war. It was like the very first thing that I found in my closet. And I was wearing it like for a week or something, which is not typical for a girl like me. And I think I would like to start with my memories on this day, because as this time comes closer, there are many memories that keep reappearing. Let me know if it's something that is interesting for you, because I feel like every personal story matters, and it tells more about what it was like for Ukrainians. And I have mentioned that in some of my videos. And but anyway, I will try to recollect at the beginning of our today's meeting before we will continue with your questions. I would like to start with this early morning or still night on the 24th of February 2022. Because, well, actually, I have to say that all of that period and all of that season was really dark for me. Many of you who follow me know that I've lost my mom in January, and last December we've learned about her diagnosis, and that it was stage 4. But before that, she was misdiagnosed for a couple of things, and the COVID restrictions and all of that. Like, I can speak a lot about how bad the world was during the last years for all of us. And it was a start of a really serious struggle, and I was very much into that, into saving mom and thinking, what can we do? How can I protect her from all of that? And at the same time, there were everywhere on the news information about war, and we were reading that. We knew that, like, I was not a huge fan of Zelensky. I knew that he was coming to presidency with a little bit not very serious attitude. He was saying like, it's just enough to stop shooting, we will talk to Putin, we will persuade him to stop fighting Ukrainians. And it did not look very serious. He was saying everything's going to be all right. I was choosing the articles in the newspapers that were telling me that everything's going to be all right, because that's what I needed. The majority of Ukrainians believed that war can start in the East, where anti-terroristic operation lasted for 8 years at that moment. And by the way, the majority of like patriotic Ukrainians will tell you that today is not the year, but the 9 years of Russian war in Ukraine, it is just the year of this huge war, violent war, high scale war. And I remember like choosing this information, we knew that east of Ukraine is more or less well protected. Ukrainian armed forces were developing. There were lots of soldiers standing on the border, and we felt like they are prepared. And we did believe that all of these Russian troops, all of these Russian tanks are just for training and also for pressure on the world, pressure on Ukraine, pressure on global community, because we still believed in international agreements, in the United Nations, NATO, OSCE, and all these things that it will not happen because there is no reason. There are no biolaboratories, there is no NATO in Ukraine and anything else and on that very night, it was in the air, and in general the mood, the atmosphere was very dark. And in one of my articles I do say that sometimes these premonitions, the feeling of something really bad coming, is even worse than when it actually happens. And I remember receiving a call, and with the information, it started. Many of us received calls like that. It started, and you don't realize what started because it's early in the morning. But you all know that when you receive a call at 4 a.m., at 5 a.m., at 6 a.m., it's very rarely a good call. And many Ukrainians started checking their phones. We went out on the internet and we realized it's happening. And I remember that between the call that I have received, it passed 20 minutes that I was running up and down the house thinking what to do. I did not have this emergency, how do you call it, that all of Ukrainians have the special suitcases where you put everything that you need in case of emergency when you need to leave your house. I did not want to do it because, once again, I'm a kind of person that I believe if I'm waiting for something bad, it will happen. So if I'm not waiting, it will not happen. But in case with Russian war in Ukraine, it did not work like that. And I remember that approximately 20 minutes passed, and I heard explosions. I saw that something is going on in Kiev and other cities. It was all over Facebook. People were frightened, and I was and then you immediately hear explosions in your own city. And I am so deep into the west of Ukraine. I'm so close to Polish border. We never had any pro-Russian movements here. It's unbelievable in this part of Ukraine. And I realized it's just here, it's everywhere. And one of the most awful things about the start of this war was that it was happening everywhere. You realize every city. And Kiev is the heart. It is always the heart. I remember when I was small and I was traveling to Kiev, I felt by train, and the train comes at dawn, the sky is pink, and you feel like you're coming into something sacred. I remember imagining myself a president, and I thought, oh my God, what must he feel when he looks out of the window and he realizes that I am a president of this land. And Kiev is sacred. And when you realize that they are moving on Kiev, then you realize they are going to do something very serious. And these explosions that you hear outside your window, so this makes it triple. Another problem is that it did not happen that loud because we live far away from the airport, which was, in my case, bombed in Lutsk. And I remember my mom was sleeping. And this is the worst thing that you have to do. You have to wake up your mom, who is just at the beginning of her struggle, and you have to tell her we've got war. And the problem is that my mom, the best person and the kindest person on the world, but you may see that I'm a kind of optimist. Sometimes I think that I may look even over exciting on my videos, even when I feel bad. When I work as a teacher, or when I perform a video, I start feeling energetic and I start talking. And mom is just the contrary. She was pessimistic, and she was always saying it's gonna happen, the war will happen, they won't let us leave, we will lose the war, and so on. And I've told her, no, nothing like that will happen. And then I'm waking her up to say that yes. Also, I wanted to call my cousin. And it's kind of weird feeling because they live in Kiev, and my relatives spent like half a year with me from Kiev, and I'm really grateful. That was a very good stay because we supported each other, and families in such time, they have to be together. That is another tragedy, that so many families are separated and they cannot support each other. And I remember this is kind of, you still live in this normal reality, and I want to call my cousin, and I think it's like 5 a.m. What if he's sleeping? I will wake him up. It's not polite to call at 5 a.m., but from the other point of view, uh, you realize that, come on, it's war. I have to wake him up. Of course, when I called him, he was long awake and he was trying to leave Kiev, and it was a problem. And you know that many, many, many people died during the first day when they were leaving Kiev. That is a tragedy. Some roads were turned into graveyards. They were shooting cars. They were shooting families. Lots of kids were shot. Like people who lived close to Kiev, they were trying to escape it. They were trying to save their children, for example. And many tragedies happened on these roads. And I was like asking them to come to Lutsk because anyway, from Lutsk it's easier either to move or to stay here. And then like I was waiting for the morning, and in the morning I have decided that I will go to pharmacies to buy some things that we need, because like we have food, we have other stuff, but some medicine might be needed. And I remember that like my mom, when she was letting me out in the streets of Lutsk, she was like, "No, I won't let you go. Don't go out. You please." And I had to call her like every 10 minutes that everything is okay. They did not continue like shelling. They were not Russian troops on the streets. And when I went out on the streets, I saw a lot of military men, military cars, and these were Ukrainians, but like Ukrainian armed forces, and they were patrolling the streets. And I felt like so much love and respect to them when I saw these military cars. Like when you see them standing in the center, you see them driving next to you, and you like feel overexcited with that, and you honestly want to hug and thank you. And like people were, and you see that the shops and the pharmacies are open, and they are trying to sell as many things as people want. And it was like huge panic. It was uncomparable even to this COVID queues and so on. It was everywhere, and people were helping each other, and lots of cafes, and these takeaways, they started giving free coffee to policemen, free coffee to anyone wearing military. And it was such a serious, like, I saw how united Ukrainians are. We were constantly afraid that we will lose mobile and internet because they were trying to hit connection, and that's important. And the television was not working, and then one channel started working, and all the famous TV presenters and everyone, they were working together, like it was non-stop. And traditionally we don't watch television, like it's dying out in Ukraine too, but everyone was watching. And because like they were updating us really quickly. And uh, it was very important. And I remember seeing Zelensky in the morning speaking to people with Ukrainian flags, standing strong. And I was like so emotional. We all started loving him so much, like many people who did not. It was like, I don't know, when you say this unconditional love, that's real. Like you see, okay, he's here, he exists, and he does not say we have to talk to Russians or we have to negotiate, because no one wanted that. It was such a humiliation. It was such a like hit on your face. And Ukrainians, we're not slaves in ourselves. And we always like when you force us, we will object. And you cannot like achieve something with like punishing us. Russians like punishing. They punish their own society, and their society lives on in fear. And Ukrainians, they always prefer like to die other than to live in all this constant fear and things like that. So all of the society, even those people like who wanted to negotiate before the start of war, who wanted to decide something, they were like super angry. And for me, this very first days, the most important thing that I was worried about, that people will start talking about like negotiations or something. But we all know that if such crime is committed, borders crossed, innocent people killed, international laws ignored, independence of the country denied, nothing good can be negotiated. Nothing good. You cannot negotiate with your murderers, with the terrorist, with the rapist. There is nothing that you will negotiate. You can only like um, it seems to me these were Churchill's world or something. If you between war and humiliation, you choose humiliation or something, you will have both, and that's true. And we all know that if they will come to the cities like mine, they will like kill lots of people. What they did in Bucha, what they did in Irpin, some everything, what they did in Kherson, in Mariupol, everything would be like that. And they will start killing slowly. They will try to build their administration. Then we didn't want to live in the Ruski Mir. Plus, now, after the year of this war, I'm sure that he planned to use Ukraine as a platform and then to continue moving in Poland, in the Baltics, in Moldova, something that like he saw as a part of his Ruski Mir. And I was like it was so important to know that like none of people around me wanted to give up, wanted to negotiate or like stop it or anything. Everyone was fighting, and we were fighting in different like places. Then the first times when you hear this air raids and information about bomb shelters, and people were like very much afraid. And this sound, it's a sound that you cannot believe like hearing. And honestly, for a very long period of time, we were living in the moment like um, when you think you are in a movie. This is exactly as it is. You do not believe it's happening. You think, oh my God, this is not happening. This cannot be happening. And the overwhelming feeling of unity. There are things that we often say, like that like Ukrainians, you don't have to be afraid. Sometimes I come across these things that when Ukrainians win, they will become nationalists, so they will be too self-centered. No, we're not like that. You don't have to worry, because Ukrainians are always very much like in awe with everything foreign. They always like to invite people to see something new. And I was never like, that often I start my vlogs, like every day I start my vlog with the phrase that I'm Ukrainian. I was never like concentrated that much on that. I love my country. I plan to live in my country my life. I want to be active, but at the same time I was never like, I'm Ukrainian, that makes me different from a Georgian person or something. No. And then we felt this very strong feeling of unity. And I think that to a small percentage, we are allowed now to say that I do understand what Jews felt during the Second World War, because you realize, first, you cannot imagine like living a normal life, being a normal person. You cannot imagine that someone is killed, is executed, is persecuted because of his cultural and linguistic identity. And this cultural and linguistic identity is not toxic as Russian is now for many countries like Belarus, like Moldova, like Ukraine was. But like you're living your life and people hate you, people want to kill you, people come on tanks, on cold metallic tanks with bombs and missiles to kill you, to put like bullets in your body and spears and knives because you are Ukrainian, because you speak Ukrainian, because Shevchenko is your poet, Kiev is your capital, and Kiev Rus was your motherland back in thousands ago. This is something like that your normal brain does not want to accept. But then when you see people on the streets, we were so like helping each other. Everyone was like ready to buy food, I don't know, to give his or her place in a queue, because you were like helping each other to survive. You were helping, and we felt united and much stronger than ever before. And like, you didn't care what you were wearing, you didn't care what you were eating, you were following the news all the time. We were afraid to go to bed because, like, you sleep and then they like bombing at night, and also you're afraid to miss some news. And it was important not to lose Kiev. It was important. I was like, for the very first months, perhaps, I was very much afraid to hear that we are giving up some territories, or we are sitting and talking to Lavrov. Like, that would be a huge mistake. And I do believe that you have to understand that, because some people often advise me on YouTube that still you have to negotiate, or every war finishes with negotiations. Yes, for example, the Second World War finished with negotiations and diplomacy, but after Hitler committed suicide, Nazis were persecuted. So we cannot start negotiating with these people after they die, after they disappear, after they are persecuted. Only then we can start talking about something else. But before, for me, it is still a tragedy, and it's very painful that Putin is a president. He is named a president. And when you will read global articles, you will hear, like, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. No, he's not the president. Like, you cannot say that Hitler is a politician. No, Hitler is just a criminal, a murderer, a psycho. And that was, like, very important. And then we finally, here in Ukraine, like in every normal country, people are quarreling about politics, people are quarreling about politicians. So Ukrainians stop quarreling. They stops, like, distracting on minor things, whether, like, Zelensky was active in politics or not, if he was serious or not. It all lost importance because we felt like that. As many of you mentioned, he has balls. That was important. And I think that he's a great president of war, and that's true. No, I did not sleep in a cold basement because I did not have to. My city was not shelled heavily, and in my apartment, I have a basement, so I was going to my own basement, and it is not super cold. But it is uncomparable to what people go through in the eastern and southern part of Ukraine, in Kherson, in Kharkiv. These, many of them spent months without sunlight. And we were reading all that. And even, like, if you have a normal day, for example, without air raids, and you have what to eat, and you have electricity, back at the beginning of war we had it, you still feel that it's all bad. Everything is bad. You cannot be happy. I can compare it. In my case, it was like doubled. But I can compare that, like, if everything is fine in your world, but someone in your family is, for example, terminally ill, so no matter how good your day is, you cannot be happy fully. You can, like, forget about something for a second, for a minute, for an hour, but in general, you are permanently unhappy. And you have to understand that Ukrainians are permanently unhappy. Even if we are active and we're fighting and we are saying that's the way, we don't have other choice. We're just like that dying person who wants to survive. And this is an existential war for us. But permanently, like, we cannot be happy, even when we drink wine or something like that. And many things, like, changed. And one, like, of the hardest days that you're asking me, um something that is not that 100% like military, but it is military. At the very beginning of war, like, people were very much afraid of air raids. My region, once again, is rarely bombed, but hospitals had to stop operations. And my mom, like, she needed chemo, and it was the right timing, and it was like on the next day of the start of the war. And you know that it is always a very heavy process on the feeling of a person. And it was really difficult at the beginning to get the medications because the supplies chains were lost. And I remember that I spent like days looking for everything, and then you have this timer counting, like, because it has to be on time. And I was like, many people helped me, unknown people brought me some medication from Lviv, and like that, once again, that's what I'm saying, like people were supporting each other everywhere. And I managed to collect that on time. And um, when she was going through her IV, or how do you call it? Like, there were lots of air raids, and they were hiding. They were like all the patients, and you know how bad people feel during chemo. They had to go into bomb shelters, which are in on the underground of the hospital. And they were taking the needles out, putting them back. So it's very traumatic because it's difficult to run with like this dripping medications. And I know that one lady that was like running together with mom, she fell on the stairs and she broke her arm, and they were standing there like, and it's cold in the basement. And so can you imagine, like, it was very painful for me because I could not do anything. She needed this like medications, and you cannot like pause, you cannot postpone. And you feel like good that she's able to have it. And she was like thinking that maybe on the next months we won't have this opportunity, so she had to take this. She felt like, oh my god, I'm like have to have it. But imagine this very painful and really bad process for a person, and she has to hide in a basement from possible Russian bombings with like a needle in her arm. And that is evacuation abroad. Like, first of all, like those people who were evacuated abroad, and especially to Poland, they were helped. But you have to imagine that there is no personal attitude to this kind of people. They were treated like in crowds, and they were just getting some basic things. And here we had a doctor we trusted, and everyone knew her and her needs and her analysis. And like, you have all the history, plus you also have a mom who will say no. And where are you going? Like, the conditions in which you live here, of course, are much better, and many people prefer like vomiting in their own house, not traveling somewhere. And it all looks like that. I know many people who went abroad and they were not 100% satisfied, once again, because there were huge waves of Ukrainians. And you have to take it all into account. So it's not just about the like it all seems like that easy, but there are lots of starting from personal changes and finishing with other things. So anyway, I felt really sorry, especially for those people who were like operated, who went through serious medical conditions, and they had to hide from missiles. And then you see how many hospitals were targeted, how many doctors died, how many other people like were suffering, and maternity houses. And this turns like Russians into pure evil. And for me, when I tell you like that, I have this like feeling that we have to win sooner. I do understand that, like, if I actually, I don't believe that we can lose this war. Of course we have to win this war, and we will win this war. But I think that if we don't, like, what kind of world that will be? What kind, like, I wouldn't like to live in that kind of world where we see so many like crimes, we see so many sufferings, we see so many unjust actions, and like we accept that. So I think that this is unacceptable. That's why I try not to think about that, and the fact that Putin wants to play long. And anyway, also another important thing, and I'm finishing, and we go to your questions like half an hour, enough of my personal talking, that um, so many people from different countries started helping us really quickly. And we felt that, like, beginning with Poland, which is like 80 kilometers from me or less, and finishing with other countries on very far away, like Australia. And people were caring, people were showing their support, and we have finally won the informational war, because for years after 2014 Russia was trying to manipulate for effects, using its money, using its huge media platforms, and they typically spend more money on their foreign affairs on their than on their internal affairs. But finally, like, the world saw what happened, and that was extremely important. That was extremely important, that uh, we felt the support, and we are hugely grateful for that, believe me. Like, I hear it all the way on the streets. I hear it all the way when people say, "Oh my God, we don't know if we would be the same good if something happened in another country, but now we'll definitely will." And I'm sure that this generations, like, from of mine, of my students, of people elders than me, they will never, never forget this, and they will never be indifferent to various injustices happening. So I am trying to visualize myself, the future Ukrainian generations, not as traumatized people, but that will be definitely both physically and mentally. But I try to imagine that as a stronger generation that went through many things, and sometimes, that people who go through a lot of things, they in result become stronger and more confident, and that is extremely important. Also, as my I want to thank today my beautiful moderator Martin Anderson, who answers so many questions and encourages you to like this video if you like it, so that it becomes more visible. And I do want that more people to know about Ukraine. It's not just my personal. And honestly, I could not imagine myself, of course, a vlogger a year ago, and many, many, many things changed. And that is it. So before I will start answering your question, I would like to tell you that, of course, I'm very grateful for you buying me coffees, becoming my patrons. Today, I have started a Donatello because many people use it, so you may try it, ask your questions, and so on. And also, I am on Discord, but so far I don't know what really well what Discord is, but you can check all the links on my channel tab in the descriptions. I have all the links, and I invite you to join me everywhere. And I'm really grateful that I have you, and I'm honestly, like, this is, you cannot, like, you have to believe me that a really big part of my normalcy and of my feeling that I have to go on, and I have to do something, I have to wake up and move, is the presence of you in my life. You add sense to my life, and I like telling the story of my country. Sometimes it's too personal, sometimes I go into analysis, sometimes that analysis is not my cup of tea, but I'm trying to show you this average Ukrainian woman. Okay, not very average, but anyway. And I'm really, really grateful that you are here. And perhaps I will answer the question of my friend: what made you decide to begin the daily vlogging? My emotions. I felt like many of personal stories are not shared on the internet, and it's more about number of soldiers dead, weapons brought, and so on. And I felt the many beautiful and heroic things happening all around, and we have to concentrate on them, and I want the world to know. And we had with my NGO one project running on podcasts, and I encouraged the girls in the team to work with me, but they were too busy. They told me, "Oh no, maybe not." And I'm always the kind of person that when I have an idea, I want to try it. And I have recorded my first vlog. By the way, you can check it. It's so it's so natural. When I look at it, I don't feel sorry for it. Like, I'm a little bit bigger, because like with my mom and all the nerves I've lost, like actually from the COVID times, girls are not supposed to talk about that, but I've lost like 14 kilos or something. And you were asking me like, do you have enough to eat? No, that was not about war. That was about things that I really worried about. And when I'm nervous, I don't like eating. So it's not about the provision. And if Fanny is here, I have to thank her because she's an amazing person and she knows how to say beautiful things and how to speak about Ukraine. And once again, she's an amazing person um, who I have shared her videos on my community tab, and I will inform you about her works later too. But she's one of those persons, like, she could not think about Ukraine. She had all the choices, but she chose to care and to speak about Ukraine. So I'm really grateful to her and many others. Like Jake Bro is a fantastic person in my life because he tripled my channel, and I'm always like and forever grateful to him. And also, have you checked my Silicon Curtain interview? Because there, the conversations are really top quality, and I'm honored when I'm talking to Jonathan. And anyway, so I felt like I have things to share, and I decided to vlog, and I had 47 subscribers. Actually, I had my YouTube for watching others. And this was like very sincere video, and I was surprised. Like, I went out and I had like 100 views or something. And I felt like, oh my God, people are watching that. I have to tell. And there are always things that I want to tell. I like writing, and writing is also telling stories. So perhaps this is my built-in quality, and I cannot write well now. With mom and with this war, like, I have to say that you have to be like in this normal condition, and it's really difficult to when you feel so many things. I think that to write about war or to write about your personal experiences sometime has to pass. And here it is something similar, where I share my observations, my emotions, my thoughts, and I'm so grateful that you're interested in that and that you follow the events in my country. And that was the first time when I recorded. And then, like, I have also a teacher in me, a writer in me, and all of them started vlogging. Yeah, I hope like 50,000 subscribers would be good. And I'm in my normal life, I'm ambitious. With vlog, it is all like a blessing or a surprise to me. So I try not to be that way, but I would like to have that silver. How do you call it? Silver something that they give when you reach 100,000 subscribers. Um, I teach at the university. I teach the Department of Applied Linguistics, various linguistic-oriented subjects. For example, this semester I teach interpreting and consecutive and simultaneous interpreting. Okay, thank you. Well, I have mentioned that my mom passed away because of the illness. Also, yeah. Well, like, I don't think that war ruined my soul. I wouldn't like to think so. Once again, I have to be honest. My fight for my mother was always more important than war for me. Maybe like you will dislike me by saying that, but it was doubled. It was really close to me, and it was like 20 times worse because it was during the times of war. And one of the most emotional things that I hate about this is that my mom stayed in this war. Like, I do believe that she can see everything, that she joined my father. The problem is that I also don't have a father, so I don't have parents, and I think I'm too young not to have parents. And that she died during this really dark days in Ukraine. So that's the worst for me. I would like her to see the victory. Her name was Halina. Halina is a Ukrainian name, and that was her name. Anyway, let's answer some of your questions. My students are fine, and I'm sure soon you will see them. They have just started the semester, and by the way, on Thursday and on Friday, they were allowed not to visit the university because we were like afraid that provocations and terrorist attacks can happen. And it's so funny because like we were having classes, and at the same time they were allowed not to come. Do you think anyone came? If you tell students you may not come, they won't. So it was really funny. Like all the teachers were at the university, and there were no students in the university. And that was really interesting that was really interesting that we were laughing like that. If they target the university, all the teachers will disappear. Students will say themselves, well, I don't know what they think about my vlog. I'm a teacher. I don't ask them. But in general, some of them are subscribed, and I hope they like. But that's it. I have mentioned that I teach interpreting, I teach EU related subjects, I taught creative writing and technical translation, and so on. Okay. Anything? Thank you for the compliments to my English. Oh, we have 672 people watching and 672 likes we had. Now 680, make it 680 likes, 82. So please help. Okay, I would like to find some more questions, and I'm even afraid to go up the messages because there are many of them, but I'm really grateful that I have you. Okay. Yeah, for example, in my room right now, in the room next to me, I have like my aunt, because like they came, we have 40 days after my mom passed away, and in Ukraine, like on tomorrow, that is an important date, and that is the day that we commemorate. So she came with my uncle, and we had just dinner together. But they will soon leave for Kiev, and also I plan a trip to Kiev if everything is fine. And actually, I felt really sorry that I did not have an opportunity to travel, because like I was with my mom, and otherwise I would have shown you more. And maybe on the next week I will be in Kiev for a couple of days, so I will show you our capital and other things. And I feel like that's interesting. So maybe you can give me some ideas, like what would you like to see. I'm not promising that I will be able to do everything that you may advise me, but I will try to. Because I'm like on business. I am still lighting candles, but we have electricity, and in the majority, like only in some close to frontline zones, they lack electricity supply. And in general, um, we have normal electricity. We don't have outages anymore. Okay. To the zoo? Looking for raccoons? What? Yeah, I do know Operator Starsky, and we had a live stream together. So okay, thank you. I will text him. Some people dream to move to Mariupol after Ukraine liberates it. Like, but the city has to be really serious, because like serious reconstruction is needed. And I think that it is a beautiful city. It was very European city on the banks of the sea, and it's all very beautiful. But today, you see, it's a tragedy. And some of my subscribers gave that idea, and later I repeated it in our special project, Russian Crimes. Do watch it. Because we are working hard to select the facts and to provide you with like true history of modern history of Russian crimes, and this was an important like period that has to be known by the global society. And I've lost my thought. That's why I continue saying something that does not have sense. Uh, and well, right, I did not receive recognition because I'm working for the outside informational, I cannot say market because that's not market, but like environment. And like people in my city or elsewhere, they are not very much, they know that, like many know that I have subscribers, and some of them tell, oh, we checked your channel, you've got so many subscribers. So they're surprised, but not many people like speak English, and not many, like it's not for Ukrainians. And like I didn't want to vlog for Ukrainians because I'm not a military woman, I'm not a diplomat, and what, like there are lots of experts inside Ukraine who speak a lot about Ukrainian. And I felt like uh, I have to speak because not many Ukrainians vlog in English, and there is a lack of us, and there are things that I want to explain to you, and that's why it is those who plan to come to Ukraine first of all. I think that it is a little bit, it might be a little bit too early. I hope that we will win. So I know that many famous people come and support Ukraine, but they are also like in great attention that like people, they are controlled, and you, like Ukrainians were trained, and we know where to run or what not to do. And you're not, because you're coming from a normal environment, from a normal country, and we are not normal at the moment because of Russians. And so, and but if you have to travel, if you feel like that you want to see, then of course Western Ukraine, Lviv, and for example my city, and that's the locations that are safer, and I hope they will remain safe. Uh, and thank you for those who watch my Soviet myths debunked and Russian crimes and Ukrainian language lessons, because that all is important, and I'm really glad that you like it. Okay, what are the other questions that? Oh, pictures of cave and lots, like first of all, you can find lots of them, and including videos. But perhaps I will introduce you in my community too. I will show you something that you like. In general, Ukraine is a beautiful country, beautiful nature, beautiful history, very tasty food, and people that are open. And I think that you will enjoy it. Would I like Ukraine to join EU 100% or 300%? I'm very much pro EU person. I do know there is lots of bureaucracy and many problems inside European Union, but there are lots of bureaucracy in Ukraine, and we have Ruski Mir around. NATO and EU are the organizations that we might be always in, and we have to build this huge wall between Ukraine and Russia. And I don't mean like just physical wall, I mean this cultural, ideological, anything, because they are spoiling our life for centuries, and we have to understand like that's a serious problem. And European Union, we share that values. Like, come on, we were fighting for that. All of the problems started when Ukrainians told, no, we don't want to be a part of this old Soviet Union and Putin's plan. Plus, come on, imagine that Ukraine is a part of Russia. Imagine that Russia is so close to the borders of Poland, to the borders of the Baltic countries, and it's slowly moving. And then Putin will say, like, that communism and socialism was once in Poland. Let's take Poland, then let's take Baltic countries, then let's take half of Berlin. That is actually what he wanted when he says like that. This Eurasia. Also, he was saying something that Ruski Mir can be from Lisbon to Vladivostok or something. This is in his head. So it's not just about Ukraine. Honestly, it is not just about Ukraine. It is about everything. And it is about this global hatred to everything that is different. And that's important. Okay, how to say Russia sucks? Okay. Yeah, uh, I will say that. Uh, okay, what are the questions? Yeah, of course. Like I have the video about Euromaidan, and on Saturday, on Sunday, we will have a new series of Russian crimes where we will speak about Maidan revolution, about annexation of Crimea and Donbass, and that is very important. No, I did not take up running because it's really cold. And actually, after I've lost my mom, I was like ill 2 times. I'm not often to catch colds or something, but perhaps of stress or something, I'm constantly ill. So you can even hear that. So I'm not running. And a very nice idea um, to pronounce Kyiv slowly, because many of you used to pronounce it with Russian transliteration as Kiev, but it's not Kiev. No, no. Of course, we forgive foreigners who make this mistake. We do not forgive Ukrainians. We start correcting them. And the pronunciation is Kyiv. We have this sound that is not common in some languages. Not e, like meat or something, but e. E is a different sound, like but close to e, but e. So Kyiv, Kyiv, and good. A question: what was the last days before the start of the war? Awful. They were very dark. Honestly, like this is a bad period for me always, like February, January, these are not my favorite months. And it was all dark, lack of light. We were remembering the Revolution of Dignity, Heavenly 100 that was shot during this period. The war was in the air, everyone was talking about that. My mom was also ill. And I remember at one moment I came into the pizzeria to buy myself hot wine, and I was like so stressed or something that I could not pronounce the word. Well, I don't know how it happens, but like you come and they, what do you want? And I had to run out of that cafe because like I lost the ability. Like sometimes you feel you lose your breath, and sometimes you feel like I lost my speaking ability. That is not common for me. You see how much I speak, but yeah, that was the thing that I could not order because I lost the ability. I was so afraid, like for a second or something, I was like, I cannot breathe, I cannot speak. That's stress. Like, yeah, that was like an Italian restaurant. Maybe I've made a mistake, not a classical pizzeria, and they sell hot wine. Hot wine is very popular in Ukraine. It's everywhere. You can buy it literally. I think in different takeaways. It's everywhere. We drink that. No, there was not a point when I thought it's over. We are going to lose our country. Not at the moment. No, at the very first days, I was afraid. Will we fight? Won't they start? I was like confident in people. I was worried about politicians that maybe they will try negotiating or giving up, because politicians always like to talk. But when I realized that they didn't, I felt relief. So, do you want me to take you on the Kiev subway or what? Um, well, hot wine we called as either like Germans do Glintwein, or гаряче вино. Гаряче вино. Вино is wine in Ukrainian, вино. And гаряче is hot. um, yeah. Yeah, like blue wine. Sometimes we do put cinnamon and clove in hot wine. Like I sometimes so much like questions because they are so different. And I remember one time talking about something like very serious, about like counteroffensive or something, and then I receive a couple of questions like, "Do you drink kefir?" And that is really good because it like distracts you. No, I did not consider to fight with weapons. Sometimes Russian trolls tell me, like, you have to go on front lines, you have to shoot. Uh, well, like, if war will come to my region, or if this will go really harsh and they will need like women, and will realize that I'm losing my country, I will do that. But in general, I think that like I have my own niche in which I'm working, and I'm not like ignoring the war. I'm doing my informational business. And also that like I can shoot well in those, like, where you, how do you call these places where you come shooting and you can win a teddy bear? So this, in these places I can even shoot matches. So if my time comes, but um, in general it may be different. Also, there was a question: did I want to be a teacher when I was a child? I have to confess you that like I don't feel myself 100% a teacher. I do not walk the streets and I think like university is my center of life. No, I don't work there full time because I also have an NGO. I'm like, if to choose about between education and culture, I'm more into culture. uh, this preservation of cultural heritage. And I often say like salaries at the universities in Ukraine are really small. Like sometimes it's better to work at school than to work at the university. So I often say that my university project is my humanitarian project, to my social project, because there are some skills that I have and I like students and I believe in them. And I try to like give and share my skills with them. But also I have always liked writing and working with the newspaper. And also I run a couple of grant projects and I develop digitization in cultural sphere, and I work as an expert for Ukrainian Cultural Foundation. So if you like catch me and you would ask me what is your first vocation, that wouldn't be university. That would be like that sphere. My mom often told me like it's not okay, you have so many different jobs and tasks, and like, but I think it's all okay because this is all connected. It's all about telling, it's all about communication, it's all about other things. So uh, I would like to talk to a teachers. I've lost that. Like, would I like to talk to a teachers? Yeah, I would like to talk to a teachers because, like, whenever I can talk about my people, I would like to talk, speak about my country. I always use this platform. So whenever you want me to speak about Ukraine, to speak about my experiences, to share some information that I know, I'm always glad to do that. You can write me an email. Now, honestly, I receive like 100 plus emails a day. So I read them all by myself. I don't have like any assistance. But sometimes, like if I see it's just an information, I do not always answer. So please forgive that. But you can always like me. At first, it was meant as business email, like with propositions, but it didn't work like that. So you can write me, and I will always glad to speak about that. There are lots of plans about cultural development. There are also recovery plans and so on. So that's like that. Well, I'm always like, you may ask me questions. I'm always ready to speak about my country. And sometimes when I'm invited, like elsewhere, or when I'm asked to write something, I never say no. Sometimes it's even difficult for me because I honestly have a lot of work. uh, for example, like, so that you think, because some of you tell me that like I don't comment much, but I do want to comment and I always read. But like, I teach at the university. I i have two grant projects that I'm working on. I write new grant projects. I write now an article for a Bulgarian project on the Ukrainian culture. Also, I have some people doing copyright and I'm checking and doing editing and paying them salaries. Also, I'm vlogging daily. We're filming Soviet myths or Russian crimes. And so on and so forth. So I'm not like lazy. So that's the things that I'm trying to do. But in my case, I like feel bad now psychologically, and like it's getting worse the longer I don't have my mom. So work distracts me perfectly. I'm always good at distracting through work, and that is another thing. Also, the question was about, did I meet Russian anti-Putin dissidents, YouTubers who try to speak the truth about the war? Well, by the way, I have taken a special cup today, not a cat cup, but it's like Ukrainian triangle, but it says ZSU. ZSU stands for um, Ukrainian Armed Forces. So, so about a Russian. Well, first of all, I know, and it's okay that you watch some Russian vloggers, and that's okay. And many people who are interested in Ukraine were also interested in Russian. And I do understand, like, I like watching documentaries about North Korea, which does not make me a North Korea fan. And also about Nazi regime. Like, I like watching that. But it does not mean that I like the regime. So I totally understand that. But I don't like Russian vloggers at all, even those good Russian vloggers. Even when you tell me that Zag the Russian is, or that one has 1 million. Like, I don't know why he has 1 million. I think the world is wrong that, like, I have 44,000 and he has 1 million, because they all earn their attention and money and playing with their Russian background. And Russia is evil, and they are not doing anything like to ruin Russia, to ruin modern Russia. They escape and they block from Tbilisi. Okay, but Ukrainian boys of their age were dying on Maidan, were shot because of orders from Russia. Um, I will tell you one experience. You like talking about university and students, and I will tell you that when Maidan revolution was like, I was not in Kiev on Maidan. Like, there were many people I was visiting. We had a similar thing in here in Lutsk, in all the other cities. We were having this local Maidans too, because they were supporting Kiev and they were showing like that if something goes wrong, other regions are supporting. But I remember like the day when they started shooting people, and no one believed this will happen, because all the protests in Ukraine, they were always peaceful. You remember, some of you remember Orange Revolution, and we are kind of always proud of that. We're not like fighting. People are not drinking. People are not throwing garbage. These strikes, these demonstrations, they were always like exemplary. If you look at them, uh, you will uh, you will have it like an inspiration. So people were like the best versions of themselves, and it all started with the protest of students in 2013, in November 2013. And when the police, Yanukovych controlled police, beaten the students, many Ukrainians came to Maidan. Before that, they were more like indifferent, but they could not help watching students beaten. And it all grew into serious protests with millions of people. And then I remember that day when Serhiy Nihoyan, who was the very first, he was of Armenian, it seems to me, origin, which once again proved that Ukraine is not like a bad country. We value all of our cultures and all of our people. And he was shot for uh, the very first people who had like, what is very dramatic about that period, that many people had wooden shields, like wooden shields, and against bullets. They did not, this is not even army. We try to provide our army with the things they need, but these were unprepared people, and 100 was killed within a really short period of time in the center of peaceful city by a president who was controlled by Putin, of course, because Yanukovych is not a figure, not an independent figure. And it was like very tragic. And I remember, like, this Serhiy Nihoyan, and there were also on the very next days there were photos of young students dead, shot, lying on the street close to a bus stop, and they were so vulnerable. Like, I always feel very bad about bodies that are left, and they are very vulnerable. They cannot hide themselves, they cannot protect themselves. They were lying and there were people standing around them, and it was so tragic. And I remember we had classes because it was not like wartime, and we had classes, and many students did not come, and some came because, like, some were on protests, others were coming. And there are always teachers that are very concentrated, like, on, oh, they are missing classes. And I do remember, like, some were quarreling that not enough students on the classes and so on. And I remember another lady saying, like, I don't know what can I teach, what can I tell to these people, to the students, when such things are happening. Is there any linguistic information that is important on this day when dozens of young people are lying dead, killed with wooden shields, totally unprotected, clever, beautiful, peaceful people who wanted to be, by the way, part of Europe? That was the start of the war. So do vote for Ukraine in the European Union, because I think, like, when I'm becoming categorical or angry, I think it's a sin to doubt if we are good enough. Or maybe in Odessa region there is a corruption in the regional council, but there are millions who lost their relatives. Do not focus on some things, focus on something bigger. Some people like talking about democracy, and some people are doing it and paying with blood. And that was the feeling. And we have that feeling, like, what can we tell them? How can will you come out to the students and you will say, let's speak about present perfect, for example? Guys, what does the question, do my students support my blog, mean? Do I have to ask them to support? Well, they like appearing on my blog, so I'm sure I will invite them. And these are really tragic. There are many tragic events. And when I think about that, when I think about these days, there are too many things that are happening, and so on. Thank you so much to those of you who support, who comment. And I saw, when I was talking about Russian bloggers, let's come back to that. I very much support and respect Vlad Wexler. And for me, he's not like a Russian blogger, because he did not escape Russia. He left Russia when he was a child, and like the majority of his adult life was outside. And he's very good insider into Russian philosophy and culture. And of course, he has a totally different mindset. And I was on his channel, and I would love to be again, and we keep in contact from time to time. So I did not speak about him. I was speaking about those people who escaped Russia because they don't want mobilization, or because they cannot earn on their Instagram, or because they just like saying jokes. Or I will tell you, like a typical Russian blogger will tell, I want to tell you something, but I cannot tell you something, because if I tell you something, something bad will happen to me. Do you know how many bad things can happen to me? Very many bad things, but I will not tell you. But I'm hinting. So because I'm hinting, I'm a real hero. And then you have a Ukrainian, like, who donates all of the money, or who stays in a basement, or who does not have electricity, and so on. So I personally, like, when you give me advice to watch Russian vloggers, I don't. I am not angry at you, but I don't follow this, like, vlogs, and I'm not going to ask them to speak to me. Once again, this is not about Vlad, because Vlad is totally different. And if many people like Vlad, like would stay would be in Russia, that would be a different country. But I don't see any like serious opposition. But you were asking me, and I will tell you one really funny thing, because you're asking me about music and so on. I was like, I look young, but I was born back in the times of the USSR, at the very end of the USSR, when it was very depressive. And at the same time, when I was like before school or something, I went to school in the independent Ukraine. Don't worry, I'm not that old. But I remember that there were like common Soviet music, and my parents were listening to that, and other things. And there was one singer that was super popular, like on the Soviet stage, and she was always like rebellious, and, and her name was, I don't know if I have some ex-Soviet subscribers here. And then you have to uh, you have to remember her. So her name is Alla Pugacheva. Alla Pugacheva, and her very famous song was Million Million Alых Роз. Have someone heard it? Like, I don't know. Yeah, Alla Pugacheva. I see. So she was like super popular, and she was like Madonna of Soviet Union. And by the way, when I was small, like I loved that Million Alых Роз song. And she was perhaps the one of Russian superstars who said, "You're doing bad things in Ukraine." And on her Instagram channel, she has like million subscribers or something. She keeps talking about Russian crimes in Ukraine, and she moved to Israel. And there are some criminal cases against her and against her husband. And like, she has a much younger husband, and there are speculations that like he might be gay. And you know that Russians are very aggressive towards that, and they humiliate them all the time publicly. And I like, it was so, I cannot say it's important for me because I did not follow her life for like 20 years or more. But she was always different. She was not Soviet, and she turned out not to be Soviet now. And she left Russia even though she like had everything there. And that's kind of really cool. And I thought that like many Russians perhaps must follow her and understand her, and that must be uh, good things. But no, I looked at her Instagram once, and there were like tons of hatred. They were saying, "Of course, you have escaped to your rotting west," and so on. So this is kind of, but not many. The problem is that, like, if Russia was like 100% healthy, they would have more intellectuals, more celebrities who would support Ukraine. But no. And that is kind of awful. This is once again proves that we don't have Russian culture. It died out somewhere during Soviet Union or even before Soviet Union, and that's it. Mm, yeah, Ukraine is not right like Russia. Yes, we are definitely not like Russia. And we like freedom. We kind of respect different cultures and languages, and we try to learn from the world and not to destroy the world, and so on. No, like I did not stop calling orcs, and I often call them orcs. But here in Ukraine, we have a tendency, just the contrary, that we have to blame Russians, not Russists, not Putinists, not orcs, because people have to clearly identify that these crimes are committed by Russians, by Russia, not by some imaginary creatures, magical creatures. For fun, it's okay, but it's a problem. It's just like the problem with Navalny that I have discussed in my vlog. That that he wants to blame Putin. No, it's Russia. It's not just Putin. Putin is a product of Russia. Putin was possible in Russia. Putin would never be possible in Ukraine or in your countries. He would not shape into, like, Putin was not born today's Putin. He was growing into that, and it's Russian environment that nourished him that way. So we have to remember that. We don't have to say like Putin took hostages 140 million Russians, and that is why he controls everyone. It's impossible. One person, 100 persons cannot control 140 million country. So it's obvious that they share this similar worldview, and that's it. If you haven't liked my video yet, please do. And also, I'm drinking tea in honor of those who buy me coffee. By the way, it was like the third or the fourth months that I have discovered, no, the third perhaps, that I have discovered all of these things like Patreon or buy me coffee. I could not imagine like people will thank you for, I would like to thank you for watching me, but there is another side of the medal, and I was really surprised. Once again, there are so many things that you have told me, and I'm really glad there are so many things that you teach me. I learned many things, and I greatly value that. And I think this is also Ukrainian feature that we like learning. We don't like erasing, denying, or bullying others. We like learning from people, and that's really good. And that's really good. Um, I don't understand one question, so maybe healing the wounds that Ukraine has. Well, like, I do like it questions. I do like questions when you ask me about rebuilding Ukraine, but you have to understand that um, it's difficult to talk about rebuilding Ukraine when we don't know what will happen next. We don't know, will he push the nuclear button? Will he start taking Kyiv because it's possible, return to Chernihiv or elsewhere? And I do know that, like, from one point of view, we do have many people who do repairments. And, like in Ukraine, there are many jokes like, what is optimism? When you're buying flat in Ukraine, what is optimism? And people buy. What is optimist when you're spending my money on like repairments in your house, or you buy yourself? Um, and other things like that. So it's kind of interesting. Sorry, I was like read about Mom's Day and I lost my opinion once again. How many languages do I speak? English, a little bit Spanish, a little bit German. I sometimes show that puedo hablar español un poco porque tengo familia en Argentina, pero German is worse. But that's it. I'm really glad when you tell me that you learn much from me. That means a lot. And there are many things that I'm sure you can like about my country. And I do hope, I often repeat this, like, hope the day when it's safe to travel to Ukraine comes soon. But that's exactly what I mean. Uh, okay. Well, I don't think that, but coming back to the rebuilding, from one point of view, I don't think that he will hit the nuclear button. Honestly, I don't, because he's very much afraid for his life, and he does understand that Russia is like, if he does that, this is a suicide for him. And at the same time, at the same time, I think that he's like he causes lots of destruction. So you cannot like have a serious plan of rebuilding Ukraine until you win. So all of our energy, all of our money, all of our effort must go in the direction of saving the country, taking Russians away, persecuting Russians in Hague or in Mariupol. Mariupol would be a nice place to have a trail on Putin. And then, of course, start rebuilding, but not before that. So it is obvious that it might be difficult. What is our opinion on United Nations that is not working well? Of course, there are some important resolutions that help influence public opinion on this global arena and global politicians, um, but in general, it's a problem, and they did not react. Like, okay, if all these international organizations, peacekeeping organizations, were working properly, Putin would not manage to start the war. Putin would be stopped. But so many global politicians were like playing with Putin, were trying to satisfy him, were trying to show that he is um let's do what he wants, let's not provoke Russia. And there is always this question that I'm asking: how can a victim provoke an aggressor? How can the victim escalate low? So you say give up, like go die. And I know that many of Ukrainian refugees traveling the world, in some countries, they were receiving questions like that: when will you finally give up? What do you want? No one is able to win over Russia. Everyone is able. Like, this may happen. We have to be realistic. Russia is no big deal. You see, they plan to take Ukraine over 3 months, but of 3 days. I'm sorry, 3 days, but they didn't manage. So that is really important. And also, I want to record a separate vlog that we don't have to compare. Like, often Russia is compared to the United States or to China. These are strong economies that produce something, at least. And that's why they can dictate lots of things. And Russia is dig and sell economy. They do not produce anything. They simply sell their natural resources, and that's it. And and that's it. Okay. No, we did not have a second recording with Arthur. It was interrupted by real outage, and it was like kind of, I was so nervous because we were talking for almost an hour, and that it went out, and I had to finish with my um, recording, and I turned on mobile internet. About camera and so on, well, I have to work harder because like I have a normal camera on my telephone, but I'm not very technical. And once again, I've mentioned that I vlog every day, and there are other jobs that I do, and I do need some kind of training for me to spend the day, and then I cannot afford like half a day record a video. I do it quicker, and that's why sometimes the quality suffers. But I already have a microphone. Okay, maybe some more questions and we will finish because it's getting late in my country and in your countries, and you getting tired. Once again, I would like to tell you, to remind you that you can follow me on Twitter now. Because of scammers, I had to launch my account, and I'm not very active there because I'm not a fan of Twitter. But you can follow me there, and the link is on my channel. The link on my channel is also to my Instagram account. And also, I'm on Discord now, and that was Martin's idea, who is our ideal moderator and half of my producer. And but I don't know much about Discord, so you can teach me, and I will try to do that. and also yeah, Discord, if I'm not mistaken. Also, you can check the link. And of course, traditional Patreons. I use it for Soviet myths debunks and other things that's important. Um, okay. Mm, yeah, I see that many are going to bed already. Good. Something else that I wanted to tell you. Um, how many city tours do I have to? Well, I would like many of my followers to come, and there are many things that I'm ready to show you, and that would be kind of interesting to introduce you to many things. But once again, I think still it is not very safe to travel. Well, like if I had COVID test, no, it's not COVID, but like I had COVID and I'm vaccinated, and like I had an experience of COVID after vaccine, so like I'm an expert in COVID. Um, okay. What are the other questions? Do you have any pets? No, no, just a teddy bear. But he's not very talkative. Thank you that I'm totally rock. When you give me compliments, I like them, honestly. I'm not going to say that, like, don't tell me that. But no, next time you will see teddy bear next time. Um, okay. His name? I have named him Guy Ritchie in honor of Madonna's husband and a great director, like ex-husband. And also, I liked his films, so I thought that might be a good name for a teddy bear. There, I would not like to adopt a Russian raccoon because I believe raccoons are not Russians. Raccoons are raccoons, and those raccoons that Russians have hijacked will return with Russian hostages back to Ukraine. For me, definitely, Red Borscht is much better. What are my favorite movies? Like, there are a lot. I cannot answer it with one question. Like, starting from various series, I loved Viking series, but only first seasons, because later when they were showing Kiev Rus, that is not Kiev Rus, that was Russia. What you showed. Um, good. What else are the questions? Like, I'm having this blitz questions and answers. Um, what happened to former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko? Everything is okay with Yulia Tymoshenko. She is alive, sunbathing in Dubai. She is in parliament. She is a deputy, and she is alive. And like many, but she's not supported greatly because she was trading with Russia, and like she's that old generation politician that like are not very much loved now in Ukraine, because many like of wrong steps that were taken during the history of modern Ukraine led to this war. Many people did lots of mistakes, and that is serious. Like, they have to be judged for that, because like even Yushchenko during Orange Revolution, there were so many hopes and so many expectations, and during a year people were like uh, totally lost their dreams, and that's sad. I will definitely do, and I think it won't be a vlog but a better quality video on Kiev Rus period, because that is really interesting and that is really inspiring. Also, in the comments, let me know that if I travel to Kiev, what would you like to see there? Like something realistic, not Zelensky. He will be busy. He might be busy. Where is Yushchenko? Somewhere in Ukraine, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. Uh, corruption is not that big as it is in Russia. I think it is similar to many other countries that are already in the European Union. It's not different than in many, because I'm sure that in your countries you also see traces of corruption. Of course, it's something that need to be fought. I don't feel like instant fame at all, because like I don't see you all. If you were like you are far away from me, I love you. I like reading comments, but like when I go out in the streets of Lutsk, people don't recognize me. So like I don't feel like thing. Um, okay. What are the other questions that I can answer quickly? The Golden Gate. Okay, thank you. Nice idea. Cultural history in Kiev. Like there are lots of things that you might like in Kiev. It's a beautiful city. I cannot say that I'm a huge fan of really, really big cities, like living there when you spend like hours commuting. But in general, that is good. And okay. I'm sorry, I did not intend to cuddle myself. I sometimes like kind of do things that I'm very natural, and that's a problem sometimes. And okay. Anyway, you have to know that your support means very, very, very much for all Ukrainians. And it is very, very important for us not to stop. At the very beginning of this war, when everything was very dark and everything was like everyone was in despair, and we felt like your support, and we felt that you are with us and you see Ukraine and you don't close your eyes and you don't say, okay, this is Russian zone of influence. There are no zones of influence. It's just like to say it to an abuser or something, like this woman is his zone of influence. No. And we will never forget that. And I'm sure that our country will be a really good country after we win, because people who went through so many things, they learn a lot. Like you start valuing a lot of things that we took for granted before. And I am honestly very, very proud to be Ukrainian. I did not expect we are that kind of nation, because we did not live normally for a long period of time. We were distorted, we were Russified, we were made Soviet people and other things, but still we managed to preserve that Ukrainian qualities. Our armed forces that are doing so many things, sacrificing daily. Dozens of people, hundreds of people die daily. That is an ongoing tragedy. That is not statistics, that is a tragedy. But at the same time, they don't lose their human values and virtues, and they continue saving cats, dogs, people, even wounded Russian soldiers, because we understand that if we become like our enemies, we will lose something really important. And like we don't have to become um, we don't have to become that evil. And all this, like when Russians invading independent state, looting, raping, killing, are losing their, if you say, if you may believe, like I don't know, karma or something, the Ukrainians are gaining, because fighting for our territory, developing friendship with other countries, is very important. And believe me, those of you who doubt, but I'm sure there are no such people on my channel, but those of your friends, colleagues, politicians who doubt and who think this is just between Ukraine and Russia, no. It is never like that. If you see like a person killing someone on the street and you ignore it, you already become a criminal too. But also the fact is that Russia always had stronger plans about the world. It's not just about Ukraine, honestly. It's not about Donbass. It's not about Crimea. What they do, they always do it like that. They swallow one part, then another, and then they grow their appetites. Also, please pray not just for peace, but pray for peace after Ukrainian victory. And it will be good then after collapse of Russia, because modern day Russia, it has to be punished, and it has to be greetings. I have been to Sobornosti streets a couple of times, like a lot of times. Greetings to your wife and to your family, and like that there are lots of electricity outages on Sobornosti streets because many people are living there, and lots of outages that were on the street. Yeah, as Martin says, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notifications. And honestly, like I have been thanking you from this official perspective, just like Zelensky does, for the support of your countries, for the contact that you have with your politicians, for the support of refugees, for the flags that are hanging on your houses, for the photos that you send, for your likes, for your watching my channel or other channels, for the fact that you know what is Ukraine, that you speak about it. Like no matter how much you do, but the fact that my country is present in your heart, in your mind, in your prayers, in like anything is very valuable, and I'm really grateful for that. But also speaking from this like personal perspective, those of you especially who follow attentively, you know that this was and this is a difficult period of my life. And I honestly have to tell you that you mean a lot to me, and your presence in life adds a lot of motivation and erases much of my like depression or negative thoughts, because I understand if one is bad, two is bad, three is bad, then I have this is good, and that I must do, and that I must do. And that is very important, and that is very motivational. So honestly, the winter is mild, very mild. I did not wear any boots with fur or something, not a single day. And I am very grateful for your presence in my life. I'm very grateful for your love, your friendship, your understanding. Some of you have already become like real friends. Others are friends that are my like superpower. And I'm really grateful that you are with me. And I don't know, let me say just like maybe a couple of sentences in Ukrainian. Maybe some of you will recognize. I will thank you in Ukrainian. І я хочу вам подякувати за те, що впродовж цього тривалого року ви були і є з нами. І я не уявляла, що так виросте мій канал. І я хочу, звичайно, щоб він виріс. Але я дуже вдячна за вашу дружбу, за вашу підтримку, за ваше розуміння і за те, що Україна стала частиною вашого світу. I don't know. I always like to hear the sound of languages that I don't know, because like you hear the melody. So don't get irritated if you did not understand what I was saying. I was like thanking you and I was grateful, but I wanted you to hear the sound and the melody of Ukrainian language. So I will post perhaps a photo if I decide to travel to Kyiv. I will post a photo and I will invite you to give me ideas. What would you like me to do there? I want to thank you for being with me on this really dark, but at the same time, very important day, because none of us imagined. I did like, someone told me that. I did like that. Like a year ago, American embassies were advised to leave Ukraine and all the other embassies because of danger. And the year after that, we had the president of the United States standing in the center of Kyiv, which means a lot, which means that we did not lose this year. So perhaps the next year we must win. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for your kindness, for your attention. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, share some of my videos and make them more visible, because there are many good things that people learn about Ukraine. And I hope I can do more. Thank you so much, and Slava Ukraini!